Happy Thursday, Kipsters! So I'm going to continue our lesson on telling time. So first, let's stamp the objective. By the end of the lesson, Kipsters will be able to tell time to the nearest 5 minutes and relate AM and PM to the time of day. Now, yesterday we really focused on telling time to the nearest 5 minutes. Today, we are going to be focusing on relating AM and PM to the time of day. Now, it's important to know that there are 24 hours in a day. One more time. There are 24 hours in a day. Now, we split those 24 hours in half. 12 of those hours are AM, and the other 12 hours are PM. So if you take a look at this picture here, you can see that we have a full day, and half of the day is AM, and the other half is PM. So now I'm going to read these times right here. As I read these times, I would like for you to think, what changes when I read 12 o'clock here and when I read 12 o'clock here? All right, 12 o'clock AM, 3 a.m., 6 a.m., 9 a.m. 12 o'clock PM, 3 p.m., 6 p.m., 9 p.m. 12 o'clock AM. All right, let me stop right there. And I'm going to give you 5 seconds to think in your head. What changed when I read 12 o'clock here and 12 o'clock here? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. If you said that at 12 o'clock it changed from AM to PM, and then it also changed back to AM from PM, you are correct. Now let me show you. So right now it's 12 o'clock AM, 3 a.m., 6 a.m., 9 a.m. Now it's 12 o'clock again, but it switches from AM to PM. So it's 12 o'clock PM, 3 p.m., 6 p.m., 9 p.m. 12 o'clock again. It switches back. It starts over. And we say 12 o'clock AM. And this goes on and on every single day. So what I really want you to get out of this is that when the clock strikes 12 o'clock, it changes from AM to PM, and then back to AM to PM, and then back to AM to PM. This happens every single day. It's a pattern. So 12 o'clock is a time that I would really pay attention to, because that time tells us when we switch from AM to PM or from PM to AM. The second thing I want you to notice in this picture are the colors. So we have a dark blue color that represents nighttime and a yellow color that represents daytime. I want you to notice that during the AM hours, we have a mixture of nighttime and daytime. During the PM hours, we also have a mixture of daytime and nighttime. So in both AM and PM, we have a mixture of daytime and nighttime. And this is important, friends, because a lot of us might think that AM is always daytime. The sun is out, it's always during the day. And some of us also think that PM is always nighttime, that the sun goes away and when it's at night, it's PM. But that's simply not true. It's incorrect. As we can see in this picture, AM and PM have an even amount of daytime and nighttime. So I'm going to take us on a journey to the past. So I would like for us to go on a time machine. Would you like to join me? All right, well, let's get on. Now, when I say ready, set, you say go. Ready, set, go. Whew, so a long time ago, before Miss Shen was a teacher at Kip Connect Primary, I used to go to a school called the University of Houston. And this is the school I went to learn how to become a teacher. So I want to take us on a journey to my schedule of what I did when I went to the University of Houston. So I would typically start my day off by waking up at 8 o'clock a.m. As you can see here, I was not a morning person. I would brush my teeth at 8:15 a.m. Then I would go get coffee at 9 o'clock a.m. If I didn't have my coffee in the morning, I would be super grumpy, so I always had to get my coffee. I would arrive at school at 10 o'clock a.m. Now in this picture, I took a picture with Sasha the cougar. She's actually the mascot for the University of Houston. Now I would stay at school until I had to go to work right after. And I would arrive at work at 12 o'clock. Now remember, 12 is a magic time. That's when it changes from a.m. to p.m. So I would arrive at work at 12 o'clock p.m. I would stay at work for a long time and I would finally get to go home. And I would drive home at 7 o'clock p.m. When I got home, I would make dinner at 7:30 p.m. As you can see, I was really trying to be healthy. After dinner, I would have a lot of homework and I would get ready for bed at 12 o'clock. Now again, remember, 12 o'clock is a magic time. So that's when p.m. goes back to a.m. So I would get ready for bed at 12 o'clock a.m. So now that you came along on this journey with me of what my day looked like when I went to the University of Houston, let's go ahead and drag and drop the scenarios to a.m. or p.m. So if you remember, I would wake up at 8 o'clock a.m. Then I would brush my teeth at 8:15 a.m. Now, in order to be a happy person for the whole day, I would get my coffee to go at 9 o'clock a.m. Once I got my coffee, I would go to school and I would arrive at school at 10 o'clock a.m. Now, right after school, I went to work and I would arrive at work at 12 o'clock. This is kind of tricky. I'm going to give you 5 seconds. Should I put this card underneath a.m. or p.m.? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Now, if you said 12 o'clock p.m., I agree with you because 12 o'clock, again, is a magic time. And when it hits 12 o'clock, it switches from a.m. to p.m. So I would arrive at work at 12 o'clock p.m. I would stay there for a long time, and I would finally get to go home at 7 o'clock p.m. I would make my dinner at 7:30 p.m. and then afterwards I would do my homework and I would get ready for bed at 12. Now I need your help again. I'm going to give you 5 seconds. Would I put this card underneath AM or PM? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. If you said AM, I agree, because 12 o'clock, again, is a magic time, and that's when it switches back to AM. So I would get ready for bed at 12 o'clock AM. Now, thank you so much for going on this journey with me, but I'm getting exhausted. Let's go back to the present time. All right, hop on the time machine and let's go. Whew. So now that we're back in the present, let's go ahead and get some practice in. So first, I need to read the directions. Write the time. Circle AM or PM. So first, I'm going to read the time. Now I need to start with my hour hand, which is the shorthand. Now I notice that the hour hand is pointing in between 6 and 7. And so I know that that hour hand is in 6's room because it hasn't quite gotten to 7. Now I need to read my minute hand, which is the long hand. Now I have to remember that I need to read my minute hand a little differently. I'll start at the 12 and I'll skip count by 5s. So starting at 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So the time is 6:30. Now I need to circle AM or PM. Well, if I make a connection with my day that we just went on in the past, I remember that I woke up at 8 o'clock a.m. And I see that this girl just woke up. So I believe that she woke up at 6:30 a.m. So we're going to repeat that step on this picture here. So first, I need to read the time. I'm going to read my hour hand, which is the shorthand. I see that the hour hand is in between 6 and 7. That means that the hour hand is pointing in 6's room. Now, I need to read my minute hand, which is the long hand. I have to remember to read it a little differently. I have to start at 12 and then skip count by 5s. So starting at 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. So the time is 6:50. And I noticed that this little girl is eating breakfast. And so I'm thinking that she woke up and she ate breakfast. And so I believe it's still 6:50 a.m. because it hasn't quite hit 12 o'clock yet. And that's when it switches to p.m. So now I have another card. Now I am going to first read the time. So I'm going to start with my hour hand. Remember, the hour hand is the shorthand. I see that the hour hand is in between 5 and 6. So it's trying to go to 6 o'clock, but it's not quite there yet. So therefore, I know that that hour hand is in 5's room. Now I need to read my minute hand, which is the long hand. I have to read it a little differently. I start at 12 and skip count by fives. 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. So it's 5:45. Now, it looks like this girl is with her family, so this must be after school. Now, I know that during school, I'm usually at school at 12 o'clock. So I know that if it hit 12 o'clock, that it changes to p.m. So if I know that I'm at school at 12 o'clock p.m. and I just got home and started eating dinner at 5:45, then it still must be p.m. because it hasn't hit 12 o'clock where it changes back to a.m. So it's 5:45 p.m. I'm going to do the same steps here. First, I need to read my hour hand, which is the shorthand. I see that the hour hand is pointing in between 8 and 9. It's trying to go to 9 o'clock, but it's not there yet. So I know that that hour hand is in 8's room. Now I need to read my minute hand, which is my long hand. I have to read it a little differently. So I start at 12 and I skip count by fives. 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. 8:35. Now, I'm getting ready for bed, and I see that it's at night, and I know that it hasn't hit 12 o'clock yet. So I think that it's 8:35 p.m. Let's practice some more. So the directions tell me to draw the hands on the analog clock to match the digital clock, then circle AM or PM. So it says eating dinner with your family, and I have to show 6:30 on the clock. So 6 would be my hour. So I'm going to use that tool that we used yesterday in our lesson. And I'm going to draw a shorthand or the hour hand in 6's room. And 6's room is going to be in between 6 and 7 because that hour hand is trying to get to 7 o'clock, but it's not there yet. Now I need to look at my minutes. It's 30 minutes. So I need to draw a long hand that points to 30 minutes. Now remember, I start at 12 and skip count by fives. 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And I need to make a long hand pointing at the 6. And now I have 6:30. But I have to figure out if it's AM or PM. Well, if I'm eating dinner with my family, I typically try not to eat super duper late, especially at 12 a.m. That's really late. So I'm thinking that this is 6:30 p.m. Last question. So going to your first class. All right, well, the time says 7:30. So I need to draw the hands on the analog clock to match that time. So I'm going to use a shorthand because the shorthand represents the hour. And I need to draw a shorthand in 7's room. So 7's room is in between 7 and 8 because it's trying, the hour hand is trying to go to 8 o'clock, but it's not quite there yet. So now my hour hand is in 7's room. The minute hand, which is the long hand, needs to point at 30 minutes. Well, I have to remember to start at 12 and then skip count by fives. So 12, which is 0 minutes, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And I'm going to draw a long hand pointing at the 6. Now that I finished drawing the hands on my clock, I need to figure out whether or not it is AM or PM. So typically, when we get to school, it's 7:30 a.m. And the reason why it's a.m. is because when we slept at 6:30 p.m., I mean not 6:30 p.m., I'm sorry. When we slept at 8:35 p.m., we slept through 12 o'clock. We sleep about 8 hours. So we slept for a good 8 hours, and when we wake up, it changes because when we are sleeping, it hits 12 o'clock and it changes back to a.m. So that's why when we go to our first class, it's a.m. Now, this lesson was a little bit difficult, I'm sure, and it can be a little confusing, and it's kind of hard to know sometimes the difference between a.m. and p.m. because a lot of the time in our a.m. hours, like right here, we're actually sleeping through most of the a.m. hours. So that's why it might be a little difficult for you to really understand that a full day is 24 hours because we do sleep for a lot of it. Now, I hope this video helps, and if you need to re-watch any part of it, please do so. I had so much fun talking about AM and PM, and if you have any questions, please make sure to reach out to your teacher. Bye!